ॐ भद्रं कर्णैभिः शृणुयाम देवाः भद्रं पश्येमाक्षभिर्यजत्राः स्थिरैरङ्गैस्तुष्टुवागं सस्तनूभिः व्यशेम देवहितं यदायुः ॐ शान्ति शान्ति शान्तिः. Let us pray together. We offer our salutations to the all-loving being who endows all beings with consciousness. We meditate on the Lord, who is the origin of the universe. Lord, thou abidest in all. Thou art Thou art the self of all. Thou art existence, knowledge and bliss. Salutations unto thee. May the world be peaceful. May the wicked become gentle. May all creatures think of mutual welfare. May their minds be occupied with what is spiritual and abiding. May our hearts be immersed in selfless love for the Lord. Peace, peace, peace be unto all. Let us meditate on our true, all-pervading, ever-blissful, indwelling self with these words of the Upanishads. Om Atma me shuddhyantam Jyotiraham Viraja Vipapma Bhuyasagam Swaha. May my physical being be purified. I am of the nature of pure consciousness, free from all impurities. Om Antaratma me shuddhyantam Jyotiraham Viraja Vipapma Bhuyasagam Swaha. May my psychic being be purified. Let me realize that I am the pure consciousness and bliss all-pervading, free from all impurities. Om Paramatma me shuddhyantam Jyotiraham Viraja Vipapma Bhuyasagam Swaha. May my spiritual being attain perfect purity. May I realize that I am pure consciousness and bliss, free from all impurities. Om peace, peace, peace. Let us meditate on this truly divine nature of ours, and we see there that I am all pervading. I am beyond time and space. I am perfection itself. I am bliss itself. I am peace itself. Om. Peace, peace, peace. Today we shall be discussing two very complex and yet closely connected, essential ideas in human life. It is necessary, these ideas are necessary in our individual life, in family life, as well as our community life, national life. Also, both of these are necessary to be properly seen at all levels, like what is called in pedagogy, thinking, feeling, willing, at our thought level, at our level of feeling, and at our level of actions. At all these three levels, these two concepts, law and morality, they need to be properly understood. And as I mentioned, both are very, very complex. They great philosophers from time eternity have been thinking about it, writing about it. And so when one sees these ideas, we find a lot of material to think about, a lot of material to ponder, and thus it is very easy that we may get confused also if we do not digest these concepts properly. So, but nevertheless, what I mean is that this thought has been there for eternity. The ideas like morality and law and morality. So, I will begin with morality, although in the topic title the word morality comes later than law. Yet let us begin with this morality first, and then we shall see the legal aspect of it. And this morality, as we see, is a very special human trait. It is not available to other animals as such, as we understand them. It is, after all, to be remembered that it is our human understanding of animal. It may not agree with, say, that animals, its own understanding. We are passing a judgment on those creatures based on how we see them. So, we find this morality as a trait for human beings because we have this understanding always there that there is what is and what should be. These two ideas always are there, and then what should be is moral, what it is that this is the present state of affairs. So the moral action is something that bridges the gap between the two. What is has to go to what should be. So it is the discussion you find that is specific always to human beings, because all human beings have this what is called conscience, which judges that whether the action is moral or not moral. And so the standards of morality have to be thought about, have to be properly discussed, rationally understood and implemented. You find that in the Vedic literature, in Bhagavad Gita, then in the ancient Greek philosophers like Plato's Republic, or in Aristotle's Ethics, these things have been analyzed a lot. Then we come to modern ideas, you say the philosopher of Christianity, Thomas Aquinas, has discussed these ideas, that what is the moral standard, how a behavior can be judged as moral. Also, there are the other non-religious, secular philosophers like Immanuel Kant, whose you can say it was his obsession to have a universally applicable moral law. So he kept on thinking about it, writing about it, refining his own ideas. So we shall take a quick look at what Kant has to say about it. And then later we see the utilitarians. They discussed morality in the light of utility, that whether it is useful or not. It is called the normative morality, something that can be put in practice. So we see philosophers like John Stuart Mill. He was utilitarian, and his father and his father's colleague, they were far more utilitarians. So that is another principle. Then there is the idea of rationality, and then the ideas about the morality in the realm of the medical science, what can be called moral medically. These are all the ideas that we see discussed in contemporary these platforms, that what should be thought of as moral. And this debate, in spite of all these great people putting in their thoughts, keeps on raging, because this principle is such that it applies to a person. And so to have a universal idea, something that is applicable to all, becomes elusive. Not only all, to all, in all circumstances, at all times. It becomes very elusive concept, that some principle that will be upheld by all people. Well, principle can be told, but it is, after all, the practice differs. The practical understanding differs. And thus, even if you find out some abstract principle, And that also is not an easy job. But even if you succeed in finding an abstract principle that becomes applicable to all people at all times, in all circumstances, then yet its practical application becomes a big problem, because every individual will be applying that principle in a different way, and it becomes a problem. Immanuel Kant, who was a strict follower of reason, at least he thought so. The idea that reason, rationality, according to him, is a universal concept. And it was thought of in science, in philosophy, in mathematics, and so forth, till very recently, I would say, till a mathematician and logician, Kurt Gödel, upset it, showing that there is no rational basis to rationality. Now, whatever you may understand it, the logic doesn't have a logical basis as such. It is, I am not going into the details or the formal definition of how Gödel has put it, but it is very interesting. And you find it that it is Kant, that Gödel is actually echoing a principle in Vedanta, that Vedanta, a very important treatise in Vedanta is Brahma Sutra. The aphorisms attributed to Vyasa, where the Vedanta's different topics discussed there have been categorized and properly presented. So one principle there, or one aphorism there, says tarka apratishtha, that the logic has no basis. It all depends on who is using that and in what circumstances it is being used, and how much one's intelligence is. For example, suppose I am arguing something, I feel it completely rational, and I am presenting it as the most rational principle. But yet, somebody who is more intelligent than me will say that no, it is not rational at all. That is not correct. And because of the superior intelligence, that person will be able to easily do it. We see this in the legal arguments all the time, that yes, something one side thinks that very correct and rational, but it depends on how the lawyer argues it. A superior lawyer can win the argument because of the skill, logical skill. There is, let me refer to that incident when Kumari Bhatta, who was a Vedic scholar, wanted to defeat Buddhists in their logical argumentation. They had just finished those logical argumentative techniques to such an extent that they could argue and defeat others easily. So, what this Kumari Bhatta did was to become a disciple of a Buddhist teacher and learned those techniques from him, and then challenged him, wants to show the superiority of Vedas as juxtaposed to the Buddhist arguments. So the debate went on, and Kumaril won the debate against his own Buddhist teacher. The custom or in debate, the condition laid was, if you are defeated in argument, you have to become follower of the one who defeated you. Because, well, your argument could not withstand that onslaught of the other person. So that other person has better argument than you have. So better you take up that person's ideology. And if you don't want to do that, then burn yourself in what is called a dry grass fire, a fire that keeps on burning for a long time, a slow burning. So that is a kind of very cruel idea. Now Kumaril defeated his Buddhist teacher, but the Buddhist teacher said that my defeat is because of Kumaril's more skillful argumentations. His intelligence is more than mine. That is what made me get defeated. But that doesn't mean that my adherence, my faith in the Buddhist doctrine has reduced. So I will not adopt to be a follower of Kumaril. I will rather prefer to burn in the fire. What it all, I am not going into the details of the morality of this condition itself, but what it means is the logic as such doesn't have a universal basis. It is, if we see that every intellect works in its own way, and so therefore what appears to be logical to A does not appear practically logical to B, because it is based on how one's brain functions. And so logic is thus not a universal basis. It is better than many other flimsier ideas, but still the logic and rationality cannot be the basis of any universal law. And therefore, while Kant was telling, he himself had to revise his statements to make it compatible with his ideas which are contained in his treatise on Critique of Practical Reason. So it is difficult to present logically a moral law that can be universally upheld. So according to Kant, it is when one is performing one's duty, if something is being done unselfishly only as duty, then that should be considered as a moral action, to do something as duty. So let me quote from an authority here, that in moral law, Kant argues that a human action is only morally good if it is done from a sense of duty, and that a duty is a formal principle based on, not based on self-interest or from a consideration of what results might follow. Now, although Kant expressed this, that we find it that the understanding of duty varies so much. It fails to pass the test of practicality. What is my duty? It becomes a big question. This has been dealt very beautifully in Bhagavad Gita. We'll come to that. It is the utilitarian idea, which really is not philosophical at all if you analyze it, means whatever is useful, that is moral. That which is not useful is not moral. And then what is more moral than less moral? That which is useful for many people, and much more useful than others, then that should be considered moral. Suppose, for example, one action is such that it kills 20 people but may save 50 people. Then which action is considered moral? So one would say that saving 50 people at the cost of 20 people should be considered moral. But the question arises, who were those 20 and who are these 50? Human beings are not like just the, the grains. That, okay, keeping 20 grains and 50 grains. No, human beings, again one has to see the consequences of that action. So, therefore, this principle really has been poo-pooed by philosophers a lot, that there is really not much philosophical consideration. Moreover, to make it more sound, more logical, it has been connected to happiness. And Kant also did that there should be a proportional distribution of happiness in this principle of utility. That is, if the action is more moral, it should proportionately distribute more happiness. Now, again, what is happiness? That becomes a big question. So these ideas are still not very satisfactory and have never yielded any universal law of morality. Now, for example, utility. Swami Vivekananda mentions that how do you decide utility? Something is, from the point of utility, much more beneficial to a baby. According to a baby, the most useful thing is to fill the world with candies. That is the most useful thing. Why talk of other things? It is simple that which makes more candy available all the time, that should be considered moral. It is, yes, that you find that echoed in many places, like that famous song, lots of chocolates for me to eat. The height of happiness, what? That I will have lots of chocolate. And it's not a baby that is who is in the movie singing that. A fairly grown-up lady is singing that in My Fair Lady movie. So it is, that becomes, the idea, what is the more useful, the things change a lot from person to person, and therefore they use happiness and so forth. They do not provide any basis for morality. One has to think much deeper. As I mentioned, let us look at what the the Vedantic scriptures say about it. First, I will take up a consideration in Kathopanishad, a very well-known Upanishad which describes this tendency. Actually, I began the talk with that these two things are available in deciding our action to every human being. One is called what I like, prayer. Sanskrit word for that is prayer. What I like. And the second idea, and that is considered the basis of morality, that second idea is I don't care what I like, but what is right. What is I see as right. Now, of course, all different people will see different ideas as right, but the principle is this, that whatever you feel, whatever you conscientiously understand as right, irrespective of whether you like it or not, to learn to separate what you like from what is right. That what is right is called Shreya, means it gives, yields the well-being. It is conducive to well-being, whether you like or you don't like it. Yeah, somebody, one friend gave me a potion to drink for I'm getting cramps and all that. So now he warned me that the taste is horrible. Well, I said, I don't care. If it helps, that's fine. So I took it because I understand that it will be conducive to my well-being. Whether I like it or I don't like it is not a question at all. So when human beings get trained, this requires training because our likings have a very strong hold on us. So it requires training to learn to practically push aside that aspect and go by what is right. So when this training gets into our nerves, when it becomes second nature, then the person becomes really spiritual and very much moral. So that is one idea given there, that yes, of course, A will think this is right, B will think that is right, but let A and B or everybody, whatever you really conscientiously think as right, let us go by that without caring this, whether it is liked or not liked. In Bhagavad Gita, you see this idea that there is the really moral dilemma with which this great scripture begins. It just is told as the war is just about to begin, means the weapons have already been unsheathed and about to strike on the two sides. The soldiers are going to strike on their enemies on both sides of the war. And there this question came to Arjuna that, well, what is the use of all this? He saw that, well, I will be killing in the battle so many people, and those so many include my near and dear ones, my teachers, my close relations. I will be those whom I should actually worship, being my teachers and my elders. Instead of that, I will be striking them with my sharp arrows to kill them. Oh, I can't take it. It is also Arjuna is feeling a little disturbed with all this. But he also is understanding that it is his duty to fight this war. He has made many commitments about it. So he became terribly confused with these two opposite feelings stretching his mind on the two sides. Imagine, if our body is stretched on two sides, a form of torture is there, that you pull that fellow in two directions. Now, if our psyche is pulled like that, it becomes very, very tense. You don't know what to do now. Arjuna, confused like that, prays to Krishna. After giving a long discourse to Krishna on the demerits of war and all that, but then if he is convinced, well, he should stop the war, that's it, go away. But he is not convinced of it either. He is feeling very confused because there is the other side of it. And so he prays to Krishna that please shed light on this. And then the discourse of Krishna begins, showing Arjuna that look, you have to see what is temporal and what is permanent. And the temporal is going to go away. The permanent is going to stay. So that is a tremendous moral discourse really, because we get confused. That is why Bhagavad Gita is very useful. Of course, there are people, some of them are very scholarly. They say that, look, Krishna is a violent person. Here was Arjuna wanting to stop the war, get away from it. And Krishna, instead of supporting him, incites him further, makes him fight the war. A very violent person. And those Hindus who worship that kind of God, therefore, are not doing the right thing. And so, of course, it is only a very superficial reading of Bhagavad Gita that can give that kind of impression. The person has actually not read Gita fully. And so, if you study it, you see how all the different moral issues that come to us, they have this problem, this dilemma. This dilemma has to be dealt with. And so the question of duty that I was referring to, that you follow your duty. It is called, a very beautiful word is there, and duty is kind of a Western concept. What is given in Bhagavad Gita is a more penetrative and more pervasive concept called dharma. So that what is your moral position is to be judged by your dharma. That it is what is that you are saying no war, but it is not from your inner being as such, because you are actually afraid, because you are actually attached to all these things, and therefore now you are actually taking the refuge in these so-called peaceful arguments to cover actually your cowardice. So it is all these ideas have been gradually presented in Bhagavad Gita, and Arjuna accepts those, learns those, and tells Krishna, yes, I will do accordingly. So this much about morality for now. I will come back to it. Now let us move to what is law. When you have just an individual being, as such there is no need for a law. Suppose you are staying on an island, there is nothing else, nobody to watch you, nobody that you can interact with. So such a situation may never be, but imagine, then you become law unto yourself. But when you have lot of people staying there, now what happens? You see that although there is the understanding of what one should do, the moral understanding, there are the opposite tendencies also working in human being. And so instead of adhering to the conscience or the moral principle, one would do something that is exactly opposite, would be hurtful to others, would be hurtful to oneself. And so to curb that, the law becomes necessary. Now the law has again various levels. It is the law which is, your own moral understanding in the community. That understanding gives a law that is given for that community for that time. So as the times change, that also undergoes changes because common people, like all of us, we don't want to understand all those philosophical discussions. We want some codes that doing this is right, doing that is wrong. So that is then they become the legal codes, that if you hit somebody, you are doing something wrong, and there will be law will take action against you for doing this. So to prevent that, one purpose of that law is to prevent a person from committing such an action. The second idea is that only this telling people, no, this is wrong, you should not do it, the person will not necessarily stop from committing those actions, those wrong actions. So there is a punitive measure in that, well, if you do like that, consequences, painful consequences will be there. You will be put behind the bars, you will be jailed, and whatever, the consequences will follow that. So that is, the law has these two aspects. This is what you should do, else what will happen. So this is a social law, religious law. There is the law proclaimed by religions, and in general, the laws proclaimed by religions are much better. Much better because those who proclaimed them, those who gave them, they were people of very deep spiritual insight, and therefore those laws, they have a better chance of guiding people. Things therefore are, when guided by religious law, they become active. It may not be exactly applicable in every situation, but something that you do religiously. Now, for example, Hindus, that it is told that killing cows is immoral. The code of that law, it is popularly known actually that it is not fully correct, but it is in the human mind for Hindus that not the Hindu mind, let us say, that killing cows is not right, it is against my religious law. Now, why so? What is the difference in killing a cow and, say, killing a buffalo? There is very little logical justification for that. But why has this become a law is because during the agrarian revolution, it was seen that the cows and the bulls, they are needed for agriculture and tremendous utility. And so their killing is to be stopped. But political law will not be that pervasive, people will not adhere to that. So give it a religious color. Oh, you will go to hell, and such things, that it is very immoral to kill a cow. So religious laws, they have more sway on public mind. And also, you will find that if you look at it in a deeper perspective of, that historical perspective, you will see that they are more considerate and they look at a vast mass of people before pronouncing a law. They are in that sense more inclusive. Then there are the social laws. As long as they uphold the principle of jurisprudence, they are okay. But they get tweaked according to the political necessities. Political necessities is, I am using a good word, but for the selfish reasons of the rulers. That is the political necessity. So what suits the rulers? That becomes then the law. And a collusion between the two is thus the worst thing. In the history of Europe, you will see this, that when the church colluded, papal power got combined with the kingly power, the king and these church authorities. They, for their own selfish reasons, came together. It became the worst portion of law. That tyranny took place in that. So a collusion between the political power and the religious power in such a way is the worst kind of law that one can expect. So you see certain laws that, for example, the burning of the witches or killing the witches. It was, so many were murdered. Now we call it murder. But it was just eradicating the evil from the society. That is how they were branded at that time. Now it is legal, but nobody ever thought that it could pass as moral. We see how the systems, therefore, in certain place, one law is there, when you want to make it universal, you run into problems, because the communities are based on different principles, and there are many types of considerations there. So, a law, for example, law of prohibition. Nobody is allowed to consume alcohol. Now, it is what happened, what it resulted in is just breaking the law. Illegal consumption started happening, because you can't control people's habits just by putting in laws. Moreover, the states discovered that they are losing a lot of income due to that, by this prohibition. So therefore soon the laws were just taken away or tweaked to allow people to drink. What I mean is that it is that the laws in places where there is absolutely no habit of drinking amongst people, those laws, they get automatically obeyed. Yes, we will not do it. In United States, you see the other some such laws. They have been very well implemented, not because of the force of law, but because of the understanding of people that in these public buildings, no smoking in all these gatherings, because it is not right, it is injurious to health. And even though you will say that I have freedom to smoke, it is my individual freedom. I want to smoke, who are you to deny? Well, it impacts other person. So shut your doors and windows in your home and smoke. But in public places, not allowed. You have your individual freedom. But as they say in law, you have the freedom to move your fist. But that freedom stops. You cannot go and hit my nose. The limit is your freedom is restricted, limited by where my nose or whatever is. So it is a complex thing. So laws become very complex, but basis of law is that we should remain moral. And so these outer restrictions become necessary tools in that. It is, if we go deeper, that the laws, for example, which are enacted by political systems which in themselves had very evil goals in their sight. For example, who will say that what Hitler did in Germany was morally correct? Not morally correct at all, but it was perfectly legal, because it was he who was making the laws. So therefore it was perfectly legal, but absolutely immoral. Same thing, we talk about Hitler, but then in United States we were not far behind actually in treating the native people here, Native Americans. It was legally permitted to shoot a Native American. No legal consequences would take place. It is all fine. So that is something that is, we make our immoral behavior get support of such laws. So these laws have to be examined and seen in the more universal moral ideas, and this universally moral principle is enshrined in this thought which comes in Mahabharata, and that is, whatever you do with the intention to help other is moral. Whatever you do to hurt somebody is immoral. It is decided not by action, but more importantly, by intention. So that is what makes this that idea that law should be based on these moral thoughts very difficult. But that is what understanding we must develop as enlightened citizens, that the laws that we enact must be based on this idea that what Kant said, let us take that application to some extent here, that it should be rational. Yeah, it cannot be blatantly irrational. Also, it has to have the idea that doing one's duty irrespective of the consequences. That it is my duty, I will do it. So, Swami Vivekananda mentions in one of his lectures, and I will read that to conclude today's talk. I had thought that today I will give a very short talk. People tell me that yes, you give very long lectures. So I came with the idea today that I will give a short talk. I told myself that today I will give a very short lecture. It doesn't matter how long it takes to do it. So it became long. So why be moral? Swami Vivekananda gives the understanding of non-dual Vedanta in this matter. This is a small section from his very famous talk on Vedanta given in Lahore. It is considered his biggest lecture. So, he says, Advaita and Advaita alone explains morality. Every religion preaches that the essence of all morality is to do good to others. And why? Why be unselfish? Is there anything rational about it? Think. Why? Swami Vivekananda puts this question. Why should I be unselfish if being selfish makes me happy? Only non-dual Vedanta provides an answer to it. Let us see. Some texts have declared, let them, that is nothing to me, let them tell whatever, some God has said it, that is not for me, I don't believe. Why should I be unselfish? Each one for oneself, and somebody take the hindermost. That is all my morality in the world, at least with many. Many think morality like that. What is the reason that I should be moral? You cannot explain it except when you come to know the truth as given in the Gita. He who sees everyone in himself and himself in everyone, thus seeing the same God living in all, he, the sage, no more kills the self by the self. The same self in everyone. So if you are hurting somebody, you are essentially hurting yourself. And therefore you should not do that. If you are helping somebody, you are actually helping yourself. And so you should do that. That is the principle on which the morality rests. Why should I be moral? Because it is the same self in all. Know through the non-dual Vedanta that whomsoever you hurt yourself. They are all you, in all different bodies. The self is the same. different bodies. Self the same, like different water bottles. You buy a big crate of water bottles, different bottles. Water is not different. So the self in all is same. That is where you have the justification and understanding of love, of charity, of morality. And this is a long quote. I will not read everything, but I will read the last paragraph. What is the gain of following it? It is strength. Take off that veil of hypnotism which you have cast upon the world. Send out thoughts and words of weakness unto humanity. Know that all sins and all evils can be summed up in that one word, weakness. It is weakness that is the motive power in all evil doing. It is weakness that is the source of all selfishness. It is weakness that makes men injure others. It is weakness that makes them manifest what they are not in reality. Let them all know what they are. Let them repeat day and night what they are. I am. He means I am divine. I am divine. And then let them think of it. Out of that thought, out of that heart will proceed the works which the world has never seen before. That is the essence, friends, of morality. And when our legal systems, as far as it conforms to this idea, it will work to that extent. So, thank you, friends. Let us meditate on this idea and then if you have any questions, we shall take them up. Yes, any question?
No question, Maharaj.
No question. Here also I don't see any question. So I will tell you our programs in the upcoming week. Hey, what is the October flyer is not here? Should be here? Okay. Because we will be entering October. Hey, here it is. Thank you. So, next Sunday, we shall be discussing non-duality in Judaism. The other programs like Tuesday, Friday classes at 7:30 p.m. will go on as usual. Tuesday the topic is Sri Ramakrishna and his divine play. And on Fridays it is Srimad Bhagavatam. The early morning and evening meditations, prayers, readings that will go on as usual, as given in the flyers. And one important program that let me mention about on Saturday, 2nd October, every first Saturday of month, we have a day-long meditation. So, one can join that day-long meditation if one has the intention and feel that kind of ability. Yes, it is from noon to 8 p.m., but one should enter here before noon. There should not be any talk. Some rudimentary vegetarian lunch, snacks, etc. will be provided during the day. So that is the program that we have been doing. We are restarting after the summer break from this October 2nd. So thank you very much. Let us conclude with the closing prayers. There will be Arati after that, And then there are some nice edible things kept there, and also from our garden. Some wonderful butternut squash have come there in the garden. So please feel free to take if you can use one of them. Yeah. May the Divine, who is Father in heaven of the Christians, Holy One of the Jewish faith, Allah of the Muslims, Buddha of the Buddhists, Tao of the Taoists, Great Spirit of the Native Americans, Ahura Mazda of the Zoroastrians, and Brahman of the Hindus, lead us from the unreal to the real, from darkness to light, from death to immortality. May the all-loving being manifest himself unto us and grant us abiding understanding and all-consuming divine love. Peace, peace, peace be unto all. Now there will be Arati.
Worldly bondage and adored by all, we adore you too. Stainless Lord, assuming human form. Stainless Lord, assuming human form. Transcendent yet filled with love, you free us from the stain of sin and ornament our world. Consciousness is a form. Your eyes always purified by knowledge. Your eyes always purified by knowledge. Looking at them, delusion is gone. Ocean of shining love and feeling, ever inebriated in your infinite love. Your feet always dear to your devotees. Your feet always dear to your devotees. Form our boat to cross this world. Revealed to us as God incarnate and the Lord of all things, helping us join with you. Your mind's always set in the divine light. Your mind's always set in the divine light. This we can see through your grace. Destroyer of our worldly sorrow and compassion so infinite is your word. Your life's offered for the world's deliverance. Your life's offered for the world's deliverance, saving us from darkness and fear. Renouncer of all lust and lucre, therefore you were always spurning of your devotees, renouncing caste and birth. Our treasure is your holy feet, which take us very soon across this puddle of life. You give love and even sightedness. You give love and even sightedness to remove our anguish here. Our treasure is your holy feet, which take us very soon across this puddle of life. You give love and even sightedness. You give love and even sightedness to remove our anguish here. Greetings to you, O Lord, beyond both speech and mind. Greetings to you, O Lord, beyond both speech and mind. Yet you are the basis of both. O Lord, yet you are the basis of both. Great light of all lights, blazing in the heartscape. Great light of all lights, blazing in the heartscape. Darkness is destroyed by your light. Oh Lord, darkness is destroyed by your light. Greetings to you, O Lord, beyond both speech and mind. Greetings to you, O Lord, beyond both speech and mind. Yet you are the basis of both. O Lord, yet you are the basis of both. Great light of all lights, blazing in the heartscape. Great light of all lights, blazing in the heartscape. Darkness is destroyed by your light. Oh Lord, darkness is destroyed by your light. Langa ranga bhanga, these are all the sounds of mridanga. Langa ranga bhanga, these are all the sounds of mridanga. Spiritual songs devotees are singing for your worship divine. Spiritual songs devotees are singing for your worship divine. Jaya Jaya for your worship divine. Hara Hara for your worship divine. Shiva Shiva for your worship divine. Breaker of all our worldly bondage and adored by all, we adore you too. Jai Shri Guru Maharaj Ji ki Jai. Auspicious and blessed, gracious consciousness sublime, all noble ends you give to us, granting us refuge, all seeing Gauri. O Mother Divine, our love to you. Creation, preservation, dissolution are your powers, eternal one. Nature's real basis, nature's essence. O Mother Divine, our love to you. We come seeking refuge from anguish. Be our Savior through your deep concern. All our suffering remove, Goddess. O Mother Divine, our love to you. Victory, O Mother Divine, our love to you. Blessed Mother Divine, our love to you. Blessed Mother Divine, our love to you. Blessed Mother Divine, our love to you. Jai Shri Ram Krishna Dev Ki Jai, Jai Shri Sarda Devi Ki Jai, Jai Shri Swami Vivekananda Ki Jai, Jai Shri Buddha Dev Ki Jai, Jai